Public Works, DPW Committee meeting to order.
Thank you.
First thing, we'll need a motion to approve the minutes of the prior committee meeting. Motion by Supervisor Frazier, second by Supervisor Conover. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, we'll start out with Justin Gagnon from Saratoga North Creek Railroad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. A couple of things to report on today. This past weekend we had our Wine and Rails event. It totaled 221 passengers on the train, and for the event total between the train and people just traveling directly to the event, we had just shy of 400. It was a very good event. We had 3 wineries, 1 brewery, 1 distillery, and 1 cheesemaker from the upstate New York area. All of the vendors that partook in the event were very happy with how it went, and they're proposing 3 like events for next year. One would be a wine and rails, one would be an ales and rails, where it would be mostly craft beers and local distilleries for liquor. And then they're also proposing a craft fair, which, for lack of a better term, it will have an alcohol component. So that's all in the works for next year, but this year, first time doing the event, very successful. 2017 ops plan is currently in development. For 2017, we're going to be looking at a lot more special events. We're going to be looking at North Creek for more adult-focused events, since it's a longer train ride and a longer day. And then we're going to be looking at Hadley Luzerne for more family events for people that are bringing children. Since it's a shorter train ride, we can make it a shorter day like we've done in the past with the fall foliage. It's about a 5-hour day, versus when you go to North Creek, it's about an 8-hour day.
It's well worth it.
It is well worth it, my opinion as well. We're also going to continue dining trains with a Pullman table next year. Again, I don't have a set timetable for that just yet, but all of this will be developed between now and probably middle of September. And we are reviewing our options right now for what the snow train could look like for 2017 as well. Our next event coming up is the Fall Foliage Festival. That'll be October 15th and 16th. It'll be held at Hadley Luzerne Station. The train will depart 10 a.m. out of Saratoga. There will be food and beverages on board, family-style beverages. The round trip will be we will also do a round trip between Hadley Luzerne Station and Thurman, which will include a trip over the trestle, and then we'll shove back to the station. At the event itself, we'll have bounce houses, high strikers, make your own stuffed animal, food vendors, pumpkin painting, and all the same things that we've done in the years past. We're going to try to have a wagon ride into the village of Luzerne, and we're also going to try and have pony rides at the station event. The train will then depart Hadley Luzerne Station at 2 p.m. to go back to Saratoga and arrive back there at 2:49. Polar Express will be the next following big event after that. We're now hiring for all the different positions. We expect to hire somewhere around 120 part-time workers this year just for Polar Express, and Polar Express will begin on November 20th. North End Local will end on Labor Day. This past week, we had a company come to us, Hexion Chemicals, come to us with a proposal for car storage, 25 empty tankers, which previously held formaldehyde concentrate. They were empty cars. However, they were placarded because they were not fully steam cleaned. The amount of cars 25 cars made it perfect to house on the storage tracks in Corinth. We went to the town board with the proposal last Thursday. They asked for the weekend to discuss it because it would require approval from our contract because we cannot haul hazardous materials. The town board came back with a no, so it's not going to happen. But I did want to just brief you guys that it was something that we were looking into, and we will continue to look into other freight opportunities. I did have correspondence with Supervisor Simpson on that as well. So, back to the drawing board. In September, myself and our new marketing communications and marketing specialist, Anna Gomez-Domenech, will be traveling out to Chicago the middle of the month. I'm going to introduce her now, and part of my ongoing effort to get more people in front of you than just me. So, Anna?
Hi, nice to meet all of you. I actually grew up in the area, South Glens Falls. I graduated from Gettysburg College, and I worked marketing for Hello Sitter, a mobile app in New York City. I moved back to the area last fall, in November. I'm really excited to be working with Saratoga North Creek Railway. I was hired less than a month ago, but we're already getting the ball rolling on next year. Like Justin said, Wine and Rails was a really good event. We're excited for the second event next year, and hopefully more to come. The wineries, we're really excited for more events. I've been working with the Director of Marketing in Chicago, Brittany Borger. Also really excited about some more events happening. And we have the Fall Foliage event happening in Hadley in October, and like Justin said, Polar Express also in the wintertime. So it's nice meeting you.
Thank you.
I guess it's for both of you, but those wine events next year, this year's event cross paths with the Bluegrass Festival. I couldn't go to it because I was working the gate at the Bluegrass Festival. But I'm just wondering if well, I guess we can have a discussion about when you're gonna do this and how if it's gonna conflict with other things, because you might have had some more.
Sure. It's kind of touchy because in the late spring, they talked about doing it in June, but that conflicts with the Hudson Valley, the lower Hudson Valley Wine Trail and all of their events, which there's a lot of people from the upper Hudson Valley Wine Trail organization that would also go to those events. It also makes it tough for the wineries to make an event in the fall because September begins their harvest time. So really they're looking at a window between July and August that they can actually do the Wine and Rails event. Now the Ales and Rails and whatever they end up calling the craft show event, I think there's some latitude in there in terms of how we can move those around so then we're not conflicting with other events, but it's a pretty specific time period that the vineyards are able to make an event like this. But yeah, I mean, we can certainly sit down with the chamber and make sure that there aren't conflicting events.
Well, we have Waynestock the first weekend, and then nothing the second, and then the third weekend Bluegrass every year.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's room probably to pitch in, but I think this was kind of a late being set up this year. Or
they do this event every year. This is the first time that they've ever coordinated with the train. We started putting this together in May. They were a little late on the marketing, but basically they talked about doing it on August 28th. It didn't work out for everyone in the organization, so they had to move it to August 20th. It was totally their decision. It wasn't mine because
right.
They used a train that we were operating anyway, so it really didn't have any hindrance on our operating plan. It was pretty much their choice to do the event on that day. But we've got a whole year to discuss it for next year, and we can plan more.
I don't want to plant the idea that I don't want you there on any specific dates, because we have several days during the year when we have multiple things going on. So Waynestock is usually about 4 events. So
yeah, we just want to make sure we're spreading the wealth on the calendar so that there's not everything to do one weekend and nothing the next. Sure.
I'm sure we'll talk at the
yeah, it is a topic for tomorrow. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else for Anna or I? No? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the only thing I have on the agenda is an update on fairground building demolition. I'm going to pass around a couple photos. One is a before and after. They're pretty obvious which is which. We we're removing, if you look on the back of the, agenda, you'll see the, a layout, of the north end of the fairgrounds and the building that we're removing. And, that work is underway. The roof has been removed by an asbestos, contractor. And then once we get final clearance documents from the contractor, then, DPW forces will schedule the actual demolition of the building and disposal, with dumpsters, so that entire structure will be gone here later this fall.
Do you have any plans for the silo?
No.
Where's my hot tubs out of and stuff?
Well, if you're interested, you know, your time is running out as far as if you wanna salvage something.
That's a good open invitation. Somebody sees me over there with a crowbar.
The whole thing while you're at it. It'll save us some effort. Okay, that's all I have for parks.
Okay, we'll move into Public Works.
Okay, on the DPW agenda, the first item I have is a request to set the snow and ice contract rate for our municipal, road contracts. You'll see on page 1 the request, and then you'll see on page 2, the new municipal rate for snow and ice. On page 3 is last year's rate, so you'll see where last year's rate was, $7,647 per mile. And given our 3-year lagging average calculation that we do, we dropped off, a year, 3 years ago that was actually quite low in cost, and so that caused the lagging average to actually increase for the 2017 contracts. So we adjust this each year based on a recurring calculation we do on that 3-year lagging average. So the resolution request is to set that snow and ice rate, at the 8206.
Wanna move that?
I'll move it.
Supervisor Conover, do we have a second? Supervisor Frazier? Any discussion?
Chairman, thank you. My only comment would be that I think going forward that I think we've done well in the last few years to get a reimbursement rate that was, I think, more equitable than what it had been. And I commend Jeff and Gene Merlino for the hard work they put into this and getting this up. And I think this is something, though, that I think going forward that I would hope that we could, the formula, we could revisit the formula to make sure that it's capturing everything that it needs to capture. Because some of these towns have significant miles of roads, and every $1,000 is a significant amount of money, particularly for some of the smaller towns. So, I'm going to support this this year, but I would hope going forward that perhaps we could early in the year revisit the formula, maybe at a committee meeting or a workshop, and go through it just to make sure it's capturing everything that it needs to capture, and so that the towns like yours and Stony Creek and Thurman and others that have significant miles of roads are satisfied.
Okay. Any other discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
I didn't put the item on the agenda, but while we're on, page 2 of the municipal contract rates, for starting in 2016, we added in an $8,000 lump sum stipend to be paid on each of these contracts, to nudge the towns forward with equipment efficiencies and with the effort of reducing the material going on the roads, hopefully saving some money there on their costs, but also reducing the salt released to the environment. So I just wanted to bring that up for discussion briefly, because we've been paying out the contract rates. I've withheld the $8,000 thus far. We just I think cut our final checks for the municipal rates. But I wanted to get a little bit of guidance from the committee on what the board's intent is as far as how I ensure that that money was put to good use, and when I pay those out. I think it varies from town to town on how they use the money. I certainly don't need anything detailed from the towns to show where they spent the money and actually, spent the money towards equipment that would improve their operations or improve efficiencies. But I just wanted to bring that up for discussion, because we are getting to the point where I wanna pay that out, but I wanna do it responsibly.
Go ahead, Gene.
Well, just to answer Jeff's question, Town of Lake Luzerne, we're looking into a new truck, and what we're doing is taking last year's 8 and this year's 8, so that we can have all that stuff modified on the new truck, because it naturally, it brings the cost up of buying a truck. That's the way we're using it.
We're in the process of purchasing a new truck as well, but I think to the point, I think that all of the towns are struggling, having to deal with equipment upgrades, and just the equipment upgrades alone are gonna make for a better, measurement and application of salt. Plus there's other techniques being discussed going forward, brining and other kinds of things. And also, I don't wanna hit this too hard, but there was a reimbursement that was deleted from, I believe, from the formula that measured severe roads. So for some towns, it wasn't a full $8,000 gain, it was some percentage of that. But if, maybe just a simple letter from Jeff out to the towns, requesting an email, or an email just requesting a response in terms of, equipment plans going forward, or equipment purchases, I think that should be sufficient, for now.
Okay.
That would be my thoughts.
That's a good idea. We're also purchasing a new truck, so one of the things that's being put on it that I just approved the other day was the Dickie John for the amount of salt that goes, and that's like a $4,000 addition to the
Right.
truck, so.
Okay with that, Jeff?
I'll
Email.
draft something in conjunction with you, Chairman.
Okay.
But I wouldn't hold up the payment. I think most of the supervisors would be happy to respond. They're in their budget cycles now, and I'm sure that they would, but I wouldn't hold up the payment. I don't see
I agree.
the need for that. You know, if a particular issue is identified with a particular town, well, that's another matter.
We've got to order one, speed control, speed sensor. We've got a new truck, and we ordered it before, the $8,000 was decided. Okay?
Okay, if we're ready to move on page 6, I have a request to increase contract for Peckham Road, Corp. And this is for work that was conducted on, a pavement preservation project. The bids actually came in so low that we were able to include some additional work that was necessary. We reassessed the roads, we directed the contractor to do a little bit, more extensive treatments in certain areas. We did that in conjunction with, DOT and, AGFTC. The funds are there, I just need to amend the contract to be able to pay them. So this requires no additional increase to the capital project, it's just utilizing existing, grant funds and local match that's already there. The request is to increase their contract by $62,974.35.
Supervisor Conover moved it. Do we have a second? Supervisor Frazier? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
On page 7 is a request to enter into an municipal agreement with the town of Lake George. This is related to Westbrook Road Sidewalk Project H343. The county is undertaking that project through a Make the Connection grant, and during the course of the work, the town has initiated a parking lane adjacent to the new sidewalk, and they also want to initiate some lighting along the sidewalk area. So we're working with the town and the town's engineers to develop a comprehensive rework of that area to include not only the new sidewalk paid for through the county project, but the ancillary work that will become owned by the town of Lake George. So This IMA will allow us to, finish up our estimates going into the project and have an understanding of, what portions of the work will be covered under the county project, and what portions of the work will be covered under the town project.
Okay, would someone like to move that? Supervisor Peninsula, seconded by Supervisor McDonald. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, carried.
On page 8 is a request to accept a new grant. This is for West Mountain Road Pavement Preservation Project. Grant amount is in, $735,000 or $618. This is a preservation project that we're engineering and overseeing in-house, so that all of this money goes directly into the road. It is a federal aid project.
Someone like to move this one? Supervisor Conover, seconded by Supervisor Frazier. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, carried.
On page 15 is a request to increase the capital project. You'll see our total increase of $698,118. That's short of the grant amount because the grant is accounting for other local match that's already in the project. So we have local match in the project already of $37,500. We're actually going to reduce that with this increase, and then we're accounting for the federal share of $588,494 and the state Marchicelli share, which is rare that we have the Marchicelli money up front, but because we're going directly to construction and doing the engineering in-house, they've accounted for the complete Marchicelli share. That is $110,343.
Okay, would somebody like to move this one? Supervisor Vansla, seconded by Supervisor Conover. Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, carried.
On page 16 is a request for transfers. One is out of our buildings and grounds electricity code into our waste management container code, containment code. This will allow us to purchase a waste container that is in need. We haven't purchased any waste containers in some time, and those are the containers that each of the towns use. So we've got a little bit of excess budget in the electricity code, so I'd like to move that so we can actually purchase a container.
Supervisor Conover, do we have a second? Supervisor Frazier? All in... Sure, Frank.
Yes, we haven't budgeted money for this for a number of years. I would throw out the suggestion that the county think about actually purchasing, half a dozen containers out of fund balance right now, and then budget for 2017 for a couple more. I think that's a better way to approach it, rather than trying to budget for 8 or 6 containers and basically increase the unexpended part of the budget. That's just a thought.
Okay.
Well, just, may I converse with
Sure.
the budget director? So, your recommendation is that we come out of the unobligated fund balance and leave this money in this budget, which will only fall to the fund balance if unexpended, which will only fall to the fund balance at the end of the year anyway.
I guess is what I'm saying is that in budget next year, we're gonna have to increase taxes, or basically we're gonna end up spending fund balance to buy them anyway. And then it's locked into the budget. And you have to buy that money back down, on either more revenue or cut expenses. So, my way of looking at it would be to spend the money now, right out of the unexpended, or out of the fund balance, as it may, and purchase the containers, and then maybe just budget for one or two, approach it that way.
And then I think what I would recommend is, if the committee is so inclined, is has a motion been made on this?
Yes,
And,
you made it. so you wanna amend your motion?
Yeah, I think I would amend my motion to propose the purchase of the waste containers. Were you thinking, how many were you thinking, Jeff?
Well, what this request is for 8,000, because we think what the most urgent need would be a recycling container, and they're about the most expensive ones. Some of the containers are cheaper, depending on if they're, you know, a 30-yard open. But if the desire of the committee is to, do a package of 6, we'd probably have to take another look at the types that are most needed, and maybe come back to finance with a proposal, to buy 6 of certain types, and then, I could get the rest
I
of
would
them.
amend the motion. Did I make that motion?
You did.
Okay, good. Just refresh my memory, I'm getting old. I would amend that motion that, to ask Jeff to take to finance a piece of legislation, a resolution to purchase, as the budget officer has indicated, up to 8 containers. And that would give him the time to ascertain exactly which containers, what the cost would be, et cetera, and the source of funding to come from the Warren County unobligated fund balance. And I would make that as a motion.
Okay. Edna, you seconded it, or you?
Yeah, I'm in
Good with
favor of
that.
that. That's fine.
Jeff?
The other item on this transfer request is regarding salaries.
We should probably vote on it.
So I just wanna, the transfer request is, we've got one, so I don't know if we wanna vote on them separate. I put them on one form, but, the other portion of this transfer request is a salary transfer from my regular salaries over into my part-time salaries. So that I would like to advance,
Is that
still.
related to the first item?
No.
And I think we should treat them separately, Michelle.
Okay, we'll take this in 2 resolutions. We have a resolution on the floor, motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
And the second part is to transfer 14,000 from my road maintenance regular salaries, to my road maintenance part-time salaries. And, we have had some vacancies that we've been working on filling, but with some of the turnover we've had, I've held on to some of our part-time, employees a little bit longer this summer. So we are below budget on the regular salary side, but I'm anticipating going over budget on the part-time salary side, so I'd like to move that money from one code to the other.
Okay, Supervisor Conover, do we have a second? Supervisor Vanslo? Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
On page 17 is a request to create a new position. This is for a new motor equipment operator medium position in the highway division. And, you'll see as part of this, effort, we'll be deleting a mechanic, position, mechanic number 6. The mechanic position is actually a, grade 9. The motor equipment operator position is a grade 7, so there's actually a savings, of just under $3,000 in the operating budget, and net zero gain as far as personnel goes. But I do have a constant need in the highway division to juggle personnel around. With our new shop manager, we've gone with some adjustments there, and I had a mechanic who recently resigned, and you know that we're gonna be seeking to backfill, but we have another position that's vacant that I'd like to eliminate to create this highway position.
Supervisor Conover?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to delete from the Department of Public Works organizational structure, auto mechanic number 6, and create a new position, motor equipment operator, at the salary reflected in the, on page 17. I can turn to it quickly, just give me a moment.
Grade 7 motor equipment operator medium for $30,959 is the starting salary for that.
Right, grade 7, $30,959, and I would make that as a motion.
Okay, do we have a second? Anybody? Rich Vanslo? Okay, any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
On page 18 is a request to backfill. This is for auto mechanic number 4 position that was recently vacated due to termination for medical reasons. So again, we've been under constant reassessment of our shop. We've reduced our overall number of mechanics, but this is a needed position to backfill.
Okay, we have a motion made by Supervisor Vanslo, seconded by Supervisor McDonald. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
On page 19 is a request that was tabled at, I think at Finance. And this is one that you've seen before. This is the request for job-related courses for DPW person. On page 19 and 20 is the original request. I included on page 21 the section of the CSEA contract that really is what has spoken to this issue in the past.
I still don't think this request is proper. I don't think that a public speaking course has anything to do, other than it may be needed to allow this person to get a degree. I don't think it has anything to do with the job that the person has to do at DPW. I think the economics course is a stretch to include that. I know these courses I haven't taken, that's my opinion, and I think that's the opinion I'm hearing from a lot of the taxpayers, that we shouldn't be paying for courses that are nice to have courses that somebody wants to take to get a degree. That's my feeling. I've heard it from the taxpayers, and I'm relaying that to the committee. I can find nowhere where a public speaking course is needed for a confidential secretary to the DPW superintendent. That's my feeling. And I gotta reiterate, this is not personal. This is to do with what I'm hearing from the taxpayers. So that's the way I feel about it, and I think, of course, that reimbursement request for at least the public speaking should be dropped from the request put to committee.
I just want, so everyone's clear, the position of the employee is not confidential secretary. I don't have a secretary. There's times I wish I do, but I type my own letters most of the time. The position is confidential assistant. She's a manager, and she manages a couple personnel, and she's assigned with deputy authority as well. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands it's not a secretarial position. That's it.
I'll make the motion to get it on the floor.
Okay, do we have a second? Supervisor McDonald. Discussion.
Is the motion to approve this as submitted?
I think so.
Is that what it is? Is that the motion, as I understand it?
Yeah.
Or does it incorporate the deletion of the public speaking? I guess that's my question.
Just motion to put it for discussion.
For discussion.
As is.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with, Chairman on this. The motion as presented, I'll have to vote in the negative on that, but I understand the issue. And maybe some of the confusion. I will support the other 3 courses, but I'm not gonna support a motion for, the public speaking.
My question, I guess, is, are the courses because she wants to lead up to a degree, or do these courses actually have something to do with what her job is? I don't have any problem whatsoever if, we're paying for courses that have to do with her job, but if we're going on to get a degree simply because the county is gonna pay you back 50% of it, I guess that's my concern. I mean, nobody paid me back anything for all these extra courses I took, you know what I'm saying? And if it applied to her job, that's fine, but I guess I'd be another one to question the public speaking. I don't see where that has anything to do with where she works and what she does, but that's how I feel about it. And I know there's a question too about, like, the parking fee. Why was that, like, part of, that to me, again, should be your own obligation. You're taking the course, then you pay for your parking. I mean, I don't know.
Is there
a way we can figure out, if there is a way we can find out, but could we find out, you know, the cost per credit hour and, break it down as such to just reflect the 3 courses minus the public speaking and minus the additional fees?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. Just to, so everyone's aware, it is a course that is an elective that's required as part of, an accounting degree. This particular employee, you know, frankly, I'm trying to get her through a point where she has that accounting degree for future succession plans as people are retiring and she takes on additional duties. We can certainly modify the request and segregate out any course or any fee you want. I would just request that the policy be clarified and perhaps referred to personnel, because certainly the fees have been covered. The fee is related to actually having to go and park at the college. So the only way to avoid that fee would be to park down the road and walk in. The policy has been to pay those fees, and frankly, the policy has been to pay for courses related to, you know, getting those degrees. So I think if certainly the board sets these policies, but this policy and how it's been administered has paid for courses that are related to getting degrees that would have no direct and immediate benefit to their working position. Again, this person she's a deputy for administration purposes in a large department of 107 positions. So there are times when she's certainly speaking in front of a group at our various events or training events. So I think there is a benefit to that course. I would just ask if we're going to reject this person's reimbursement request, then the policy should be reviewed and articulated more clearly.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I was one of the ones that raised the flag on this. One thing I do have to say about the parking fee, that was one that I said, why are we paying this, or even a part of it? But if you register at the college, you have to pay that parking fee. Making a difference whether you're walking from 10 miles away or not, you gotta pay that parking fee. So, according to the policies, any fee associated with the course is to be paid. So, in reality, parking fee should be part of the reimbursement. As much as that rates on it to say that, but that's the way it should be. The policy, I mean, we reviewed it, I think it's pretty clear as to what's, yeah. And I think it's pretty clear as to what it says, not just the contract, but the policy that was adopted by the board is pretty clear. It says, you know, job-related courses.
President McDonald?
So, based on the discussion, probably include, the fees, drop the public speaking course, and have that number reflected. And then would the committee be opposed to sending that, review of this to legislative and rules, or is that the appropriate avenue?
Well, before anything could move, Ron made the motion.
I was beginning to wonder.
Well, I was being polite to your fellow supervisor, but Ron made the motion, so it's up to him whether he would like to amend his motion or take any other further.
So basically amending the motion to not cover that specific course, since parking's not an issue.
Which, there's 2 courses you're saying, right, or is it 1?
Just public speaking.
Oh, just the public speaking.
That.
Okay, that's what it is, 1 course.
Okay, I'd like to amend my original motion to that effect.
Okay, and Matt, I'm sure, are you okay with that? Okay. Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
I have one comment, and that's just, I think going forward, I think that when the treasurer's office sees something like this where there's a red flag, if you could, when you see it, obviously you can't shortstop everything, if you could shoot an email to the appropriate department head. I'm not saying that wasn't done here, I don't know whether it was or not, but I think it would be helpful, for everyone to know when you see something that may be a red flag in an audit, and I believe this could have been, in an audit, that,
Well,
the
this-
department head immediately know before it comes into the legislative pipeline, and that way you can sit down with the county administrator and resolve the issue.
Yeah, I'd like to, just one caveat, we did meet. I met with the treasurer's office and the deputy administrator, and we reviewed this fully, and we vetted this request, and I feel comfortable with deleting the one course. I still, I'll respectfully disagree with the department head. It should have never been presented to committee that way. And if you go back and look at the history of courses paid, majority of them are paid for specific course for the job at hand, not stretches, not courses. They're nice to have. And although the last time the course were approved after the fact, at least the one thing we got right this time is we're approving the request before the course is ever taken. So the course has not been enrolled in yet, I don't believe, so the person's not out. And as far as the fees go, we had a discussion about the fees, and it's the prior county attorney had made the recommendation that fees be included. And if you look at the bill from the college, they include a lot of fees now. I think that's where they get a lot of their money, by including a lot more fees on their bill than in the past. So, I mean, we did look at this. We have already studied this, and we feel that the recommendation I made today, that's why I made the recommendation in committee, is because I sat with the treasurer and the deputy administrator. We feel we're following the way that the rules are written.
Well, then I would respond by saying that, just speaking for myself, supervisor, any department head that comes into committee requesting a piece of legislation that has not met with the approval of the treasurer's office, chairman, and the county administrator is going to have tough sledding with me, I can tell you that.
The second part of the discussion before this was, whether the policy should be looked at or referred to personnel. Is everybody okay with that? Or leave it alone?
Treasurer seems to think that's pretty clear, but
It's sufficient?
No,
I feel
my-
that the
my
policy is
opinion,
written, and
Kevin and I, when we talked about it, was our opinion that the policy is approved by the board. It's pretty clear. I'm not saying don't, but that's my opinion.
It does seem clear, just if there were supervisors who do feel there's some ambiguity about it, then, they should be granted the opportunity to,
absolutely,
have a look
they
at
can
it.
read it over. They want more study, get it.
Okay.
So I'll revise that. I just did a quick calculation. The tuition request would be reduced to $522. The net impact for the 50% reduction would be $261 in reimbursement that wouldn't go forward.
Oh, I should address one thing. There was a question about if you were to get scholarships or Pell Grants. And on the form now, there's a thing that it's already on the form that if you get scholarships or grants for the thing, that you need to reduce that off of what your request for reimbursement. So that is on our form. And last time that kind of slid through, and there's a different. I mean, somebody took a course, they got paid through a grant, and then they just resubmitted to get paid for the full amount of the course, forgetting about the grant they got. And that's on our form, and that will be reviewed by HR before those forms go to the treasurer's office. Make sure that if you did get a grant, you subtract the amount of the grant away from the tuition cost too. So, but please read over the information that's available to you.
Okay.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the pending item on the New York State DEC grant. I have not heard from DEC on that grant, so we're still waiting for that. On page 22 is a letter from the mayor of the Village of Lake George. This is a request to increase the fee that the county pays to the village regarding the Westbrook parking lot. We have 2 parking lots that the county owns, and we have 2 separate contracts with the village on administering the collection of cash and also doing the parking enforcement. And on this particular parking lot, the county pays the village 10% of the cash they collect and 10% of any fines they collect. On the Beach Road parking lot, which is the other parking lot the county owns, the county pays the village 75% of all receipts in exchange for them collecting the money and administering the enforcement. So this is a recurring request from the mayor. I think he had made the request maybe last year and then retracted it, but we did get the second request for this year.
Good, Ron?
Yeah, I see percentages, but I don't see dollars, so I don't really know what that additional 5% means. That would be my first question to Jeff. What analysis has been done on this? What exactly the impact is from a revenue point of view, and then the second thing would be, does this increase, does it meet with your approval?
I have some numbers for last year for the Westbrook parking lot, of approximately $63,000 in cash and fines that were collected. The village retained $9,700. So if we go from 10% to 15%, that would be an increase of approximately $5,000 based on last year's numbers.
Say that again? 10% of 63 is 6,300.
Yeah,
How'd they get 9,700?
A portion of that goes to another fund that or another service. So it's $9,700
So that's
total.
not just the parking?
Yes. So it's the cash and the fines. After the service is paid, it's $7,300 is what we get, and these are the numbers that I got from the treasurer's office on these totals.
So was that parking lot utilized for a full year last year?
I think it was, but it wasn't the same size.
It was?
So the parking lot has been open, it just hasn't been the same size.
Because
so I
that
would
makes a
anticipate.
difference, because if you're increasing 5% of 100 spaces versus 5% of 50 spaces, there's a difference in.
Right. So we already budgeted for an increase in revenue this year, so the village's expense, their expenses will go up, and that they provide the paper that goes in the machines.
Right.
But their revenue will go up as well because we expanded the parking lot and we added new machines. And the mayor's not here to speak on behalf of this request, but in his letter, if you've reviewed that, he mentions that, I think in this letter, yes, that we've gone from 4 pay stations to 7, and that it requires additional time for their personnel. I'm quoting the mayor here. Since the inception of the contract, the county has increased the pay stations from 4 to 7. This requires additional time for our personnel to collect, count, and maintain daily. So that increase, that is correct, and we're anticipating an increase in revenue as well, that the village will share a percentage of that increase in revenue.
See, I think where I'm going with this, Jeff, is that program has a certain expense picture, and then there's a certain total revenue picture. So unless we're awash in revenue against the expense picture, then effectively what we're doing is we're decreasing our revenue with no impact on the expense side. The expense side stays the same or goes up. So that's why it brings me back to my question to you, Jeff, is that in terms of the total picture of who does what and how people are reimbursed, does this have do you recommend for this?
Well, I'll just say that the alternative to this would be for, DPW to either contract with a service or contract with, or hire personnel to do it. So I have no, parking enforcement personnel. I have no one that collects cash out of these machines. It makes sense for the village to provide that service. They have the procedures in place, they have the personnel that they hire each summer that do this. They're already administering the Beach Road parking lot, that is directly, you know, across the parcel. And my understanding is that the town, once they establish parking on Westbrook Road, that they will likely contract with the village as well. At least that's been some of the early discussions. So I think the fact that the village provides the service is certainly, it makes sense, and that they already have that infrastructure, the carts they use to move the personnel around, and their mechanisms in place to handle the cash.
Couldn't we delay this request until October or November to see what the cash flow is, to see what the, just to see what the impact's gonna be on our budget? Can't we just wait? I mean, I don't think you have to act on this today. Couldn't you just carry this over and you know, till, cause their budget starts in April. The village budget started in April, so if we could get this before we finalize our budgets, just so we can see where the cash flow has changed, you know, before you act. I just think that's more prudent on our, just to wait until we see more of the numbers from the village on the cash, intake this year. I would wait a little bit. I don't think you have to act today. It's August. It would be nice if we could see something by October, end of October, to give Frank an idea. And cause revenue's tight.
He wants this effective.
Revenue's gonna be tight, so.
Yeah, that seems very prudent.
Well, I think that was my point. I think we'd have a better snapshot
Yeah,
of
we'll just look at it.
this, a better picture of this. And we would understand what these percentages mean, or have a better understanding of what all this means.
My understanding is for this year, we've only received, the earliest receipts from May, I think. We haven't received anything since May on this year's, revenue on the parking lot. So I would anticipate, once we remove the meters at the end of October, it would probably be December or January by the time we would have a full picture. Hopefully by December, they've got the full receipts and accounting to the treasurer's office, and then we can,
But this,
then we report back to
this
committee.
should actually make a move quicker, if they want a response. I would think that you could count the money a little faster if we're waiting on, to give them an answer on the increase.
We should be getting something right now.
Sure you should.
I mean, we will be. I mean, normally we get something around the middle of August for June and July.
Right, but I mean, even to get the August numbers and the September numbers, you ought to be able to get them by October. I know I would count it fast. You're gonna pay me
The big
more.
picture here is that we want a single source, unified, collection and enforcement program.
Absolutely.
You know, that means a lot in terms of
Right.
the parking program overall, regardless of who owns what parking, right? So I don't think there's any question about that, and we certainly don't wanna injure the village. I mean, we certainly are happy that the village is doing this, and I think they understand that that's the role that they should play. It's just I'm trying to get a sense myself of the bigger picture again.
Great. Okay, we'll revisit this.
Okay. The next item is just to review some projects, that were completed here recently. The first couple pictures I'm sending around are Queensbury Avenue and Boulevard down in, South Queensbury. Those were actually, contracted projects through federal aid project. And then also sending, the next four that I'm sending around are, the county paving crew. Work completed on Schroon River Road, Trout Lake Road, Friends Lake Road, and Valley Road.
Hey, Mike?
Yeah, I just would like to say quickly that, last week, Lexi and Real Property and I spent most of the week out talking to, delinquent taxpayers, and rode on almost all the roads that the DPW crew has done, and the job is excellent.
Okay, the last two items are just attachments. I have the overtime report and the fuel usage report on pages 23 and 24. That's all I have for submitting.
Okay, is there anything from the committee? Okay, motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.
That'd be some nice case notice.